This lesson is all about the American accent. And I know it can sound very fast if you're on the street or watching a movie or TV show, which is why I titled this American Fast Speech. And if you are someone who enjoys learning more about the American accent, please subscribe, turn on notifications. That way I can become your teacher. My name is Wes. The channel is Interactive English. It is all about helping you reach your fluency goals. And this is a practice lesson, and I want you to actually practice your speaking skills, say these sentences with me, and see if you can copy my accent. Now, I will say that you should never feel like you need to speak with any particular English accent, but I do know that some of you may be visiting the US or you live in the US, which is why this may be of interest to you. And if you would like to get the lesson notes, click on that link down below in the description, join my email community, and if you're already a part of it, check your inbox, I have sent them to you. So the way that I would like to practice is with several dialogues. And I want to go through each sentence. We're going to do a deep dive and talk about what's going on, different parts of connected speech, intonation, and we're going to practice saying these sentences together as a group. We're going to practice saying the phrases instead of pronouncing the individual word. So let's look at our first dialogue, and I'm just going to go ahead and say the dialogue so you can hear it, and then we're going to go through this one at a time and just keep practicing and practicing and practicing. And hopefully by the end of the lesson, you will feel more comfortable using some of these different parts of connected speech. And also you may develop your listening comprehension skills as well, which is why I think this is an important lesson for just about anyone. So let me say this first dialogue and then we'll jump into it. Did you know we're not going to finish on time? I should have seen this coming from a mile away. What do you think we ought to do now? We're going to have to go back to square one. As I was saying that, it was pretty fast, but I think you were probably able to listen and understand what I was saying. Now, let's talk about what's happening as I was saying these individual sentences, and we will start with this question right here. Did you know we're not going to finish on time? Did you know we're not going to finish on time? What is happening? The first thing I want to point out is assimilation may occur with those first two words, did you. So in this case, it's kind of like these sounds are blending together. That's the simplest way I can put it. In this case, think of the D and Y. If they were to blend together, you get more of a J sound. It is not something you have to force. As you go from one sound to the next, it's just going to occur naturally. Did you? Did you? This does not mean that you are always going to hear this. You may hear people ask the question and they say, did you? And you hear those individual words. But I think often, especially if people are speaking a little faster, maybe they're in a hurry, then assimilation may occur. Did you? Did you? Say it after me. Did you? Did you? Did you know we're not going to? This is a very common reduction. We're going to reduce that to gonna. I think you probably have heard this before. Maybe you already use this as part of your speaking fluency. And then finish on time. Linking may occur. This is when we're going to link the final consonant sound of one word with the beginning vowel sound of the next word. And it's almost like we're just moving that consonant sound over to the next word or syllable. And then finally, that n and t, there's a co-articulation. This is, again, in its simplest form, think of it as more overlapping sounds. Often, it's when your tongue ends up in the same position. So for example, that n sound, your tongue is going to be up behind your top front teeth, and you're just going to release and move right in to that t in time. This does help smoothen out one's speech, because sometimes what I hear is people will pronounce an individual word, and then inside their mouth they kind of reset and then say the next word. So really what we're looking to do is transition from one word to the next and do this smoothly and naturally. So here is the phonetic spelling that I've highlighted. If it's easier for you to look at the phonetic spelling as you're trying to say this, then that's great. Or you can just look at the sentence, look at those words and listen to the way that I'm saying it. And then we're going to say it together. So we're going to do some shadowing as well. So let's practice this a few times. I am going to say the sentence, and I just want you to repeat after me. I'll say it slowly, and then at a normal speed, and then we'll do a little shadowing. So just repeat after me. Did you know we're not going to finish on time? Now let's repeat after me. Say it more at a normal speed. Did you know we're not going to finish on time? Now let's say it 3 times together. And I want you to shadow me and basically try to say it at the same time. And when you do this, you're working on several things: pronunciation, intonation, emphasis, pacing, which I think is very important and also a bit challenging when it comes to shadowing. So let's say this question a few times, and I want you to say it with me. Ready? Did you know we're not going to finish on time? One more time. Did you know we're not going to finish on time? Let's say it one last time for good measure. Did you know we're not going to finish on time? All right, good, excellent, perfect. I trust that you are speaking and saying these sentences with me. So the response is, I should have seen this coming from a mile away. Now, to give you a little vocabulary, to see something coming from a mile away, this is an expression. It really just means to foresee and prepare for something that is completely obvious. You're like, oh yeah, of course it was obvious. I should have seen this coming from a mile away. Now, when you're saying it and pronouncing this, just like me, here's what's going on. I should have. Should have is a reduction. We can reduce that. Once again, there's co-articulation with that n, and this time with that voiceless th and this. Coming, I'm going to drop that G. Now, this is not a fixed rule, but this is something that often happens. People do this all the time in the US when we're talking about verbs in the continuous tense. You can hear if I say the ing coming, and you hear that ing sound, it's just easier to say in than ing. So instead of coming, comin'. Comin' from a mile away. We can link that whole phrase, from a mile away. Repeat after me just that phrase, from a mile away. It is a little bit of a tongue twister with that from a mile, and you hear those sounds. One more time, from a mile away. All right, are you ready? Let's put it all together and say this sentence. Let me just say it one time, and then we'll go through it slowly. I should have seen this coming from a mile away. I'm going to say it slowly, and I want you to repeat after me. I should have seen this coming from a mile away. All right, now let's say it more at a normal speed. I should have seen this coming from a mile away. Let's now shadow. Say it 3 times. All right, are you ready? I want you to say it with me and see if you can maintain that same speed. Are you ready? I should have seen this coming from a mile away. Again, I should have seen this coming from a mile away. And one more time, I should have seen this coming from a mile away. All right, good, good. We're practicing all these different parts, and essentially it is a little bit of a drill exercise. The more you say these different phrases again and again and again, when you're having a conversation, you're just going to say them naturally, well, just like me, with an American accent. Here is the next question. And if you notice, I've just been putting up random pictures that in the US. This is Grand Central Station in New York. But the question, what do you think we ought to do now? What do you think we ought to do now? So what's happening with this question? What do? There is co-articulation, but there's also, there's several ways that you could look at this. So for example, the t and the d sound, your tongue is in the same position. So they are overlapping, but really what happens is that t sound, you're not really going to hear it. So really you don't hear any type of t, even though it would be a stop t. It's just going to sound like what. What do you think we oughta do now? You hear me say oughta, oughta. You don't hear a T sound, you hear more of a soft D. When the T comes between 2 vowel sounds, you're going to hear me pronounce it as a flat T. It's going to sound like a soft D. This is a distinct part of the American accent, and this is really something, if you are interested in emulating the American accent, sounding like you have more of an American accent, which of course, if you're living in the US, I think, is perfectly fine. The flap T is very useful. It's very important. Americans, we love it. We use it all the time. And in this case, oughta, 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 you hear that soft D. So let's look at everything that's going on. What do you? What do you? What do you? Now, I forgot to mention you is a word that is often reduced because in this case, it's not emphasized. And when that happens, the vowel sound's going to change slightly. So it may sound more like it has a schwa sound. Now, this is not something that's going to always happen. It may come anywhere between a U and a Y. But if I were saying this quickly, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Just say that phrase, repeat that after me. What do you think? What do you think? And hopefully you can pick it out. Let me say it slowly. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think we ought to do now? I've kind of spelled it phonetically as a reduction, even though I already said that T, you're going to hear me pronounce it as a flap T. Oughta, oughta. What do you think we ought to do now? I'll say it slowly, repeat after me, and then we'll say it more at a normal speed. What do you think we ought to do now? Say it again, more at a normal speed. What do you think we ought to do now? Now, I want you to say it with me 3 times. Are you ready? Here we go. What do you think we ought to do now? What do you think we ought to do now? What do you think we ought to do now? All right, good. The last part of this dialogue, we're going to have to go back to square one. And in case you're unfamiliar with what is being said in the sentence, to go back to square one, it really just means you're starting over from the beginning because a previous attempt failed. It's really the same as to go back to the drawing board, which is another common idiom in English. We're going to go back to square one. What is happening? You're going to see this a lot. We're going to talk about this a lot. Is going to get reduced to gonna. We're going to have to is another reduction. Instead of have to, it's going to sound like have to. Go back to square one. This is another, I mentioned how you, when it's unstressed, may sound a little more like ya. This is even more common. The preposition to, when you hear me say it now, to, it sounds just like the number, to, because I'm stressing it. Often, I should say very often, it's reduced. These function words are not really stressed, and in that case, it's going to sound like a much softer, weaker to square one, to square one. Can you hear that weaker sound, to square one? Just say that last phrase with me, to square one. Back to square one. All right, now let's put it all together. We're going to have to go back to square one. Let's say it. I'll say it slowly. Just repeat after me. We're going to have to go back to square one. Now at a normal speed, repeat after me. We're going to have to go back to square one. Now let's say it together 3 times. We're going to have to go back to square one. We're going to have to go back to square one. We're going to have to go back to square one. Now that we've gone through each sentence and really went deep into what was happening and why it sounds the way it does, let's practice this dialogue. I'll say the whole thing and then we're going to take turns and just keep saying this using these different parts of connected speech. So let me say the whole thing. Did you know we're not going to finish on time? I should have seen this coming from a mile away. What do you think we ought to do now? We're going to have to go back to square one. So I will start out and I will say A. I want you to say part B and then we'll switch. Are you ready? Let's begin. Did you know we're not going to finish on time? What do you think we ought to do now? Good. I trust that you're saying it with me and I'm not just talking to myself. So let's switch. I want you to say A and I will say B. You can begin. I should have seen this coming from a mile away. We're going to have to go back to square one. Excellent. All right, let's keep moving right along. Let's do dialogue number 2. And we're just going to keep practicing and practicing and practicing, and then we're going to practice some more. How about that? Here is the next dialogue. And let's start out. I will say the whole thing, and then we will go through this one step at a time. Don't you want to get out of the pool? What's your hurry? I'm just taking it easy. Let's go to the restaurant and get a bite to eat. I'm going to do a few more laps and then I'm done. Let's begin with that first question. Don't you want to get out of the pool? Don't you want to get out of the pool? That looks like a nice pool. I don't know if I'd want to get out of that. So don't you. Of course, you may hear people pronounce those individual words, but once again, assimilation may occur. This time, if the t and y blend together, you get more of a ch sound, don't you? Don't you want to is another very common reduction, wanna. Don't you wanna get out of the pool? We're going to link that entire phrase, get out of. But not only that, you're going to hear me, with my American accent, pronounce those T's as a flap T because they come between two vowel sounds. So this not only happens in individual words, but with phrases as well, which is why I said it is incredibly common. Get out of, get out of. Just say that phrase after me, get out of, get out of. One more time, get out of. The reason why I'm really focused on this phrase right now is because you will end up using this quite often in a variety of different contexts. Get out of the pool, get out of the car, get out of bed, get out of trouble. And this is a great phrase to just go ahead and really think about and practice together because you're going to use it. Get out of, get out of, get out of. And the last thing I would say about this question, because it is a yes-no question, you really do have a rising intonation at the end. Don't you want to get out of the pool? Maybe I'm emphasizing it a little bit then. Don't you want to get out of the pool? So let's practice this one time slowly and then repeat after me and then at a regular speed and then we're going to do some shadowing. Are you ready? Don't you want to get out of the pool? I'm laughing at myself with that pool. Let me say it again. Repeat after me. Normal speed. Don't you want to get out of the pool? Now let's shadow. Say it 3 times together. Ready? Don't you want to get out of the pool? Don't you want to get out of the pool? Don't you want to get out of the pool? Okay, perfect. I'm just imagining I'm actually saying this question to you. Don't you want to get out of the pool? And the reply, look, what's your hurry? I'm just taking it easy. So we have a question and then a statement. What's your hurry? I'm just taking it easy. You can see this theme of assimilation, and it often happens with questions. And this is another perfect example. What's your, so that T-S, that S plus the Y, and we get a sh sound. What's your hurry? I'm just taking it easy. Elision, this is when sounds or syllables get removed. It happens in individual words, like the syllable, the schwa sound may get removed. But it also happens when the T or D, the T or D, comes between two consonants. Now, this is a phrase, but that T comes between two consonants, you don't hear it. Just taken, just taken. I'm just taken. You hear that G dropping. I'm not saying taking it easy. And I can link that phrase together with those flap T's. So a lot going on in that statement. I'm just taking it easy. But maybe it's a little easier if you see what's going on and you can see me dropping that T and just, and then that taking it easy, taking it easy, taking it easy. Let's practice both the question and the statement. I'll say it slowly. Repeat after me. What's your hurry? I'm just taking it easy. Let's speed it up. Repeat after me. What's your hurry? I'm just taking it easy. Shadowing time, 3 times. See if we can maintain the same pace and say it just like me. Ready? What's your hurry? I'm just taking it easy. What's your hurry? I'm just taking it easy. What's your hurry? I'm just taking it easy. I'm trying to get into character as I'm saying these sentences, and I hope that you are too, because I think it'll make it a little easier to shadow and say it just like me. The next sentence, Let's go to the restaurant and get a bite to eat. Let's go to the restaurant and get a bite to eat. So go to the. I also want you to focus on this phrase as well. I already talked about the importance of like get out of. Go to the is another useful one, I really think, when it comes to the American accent, because we use this quite often. So what's happening? That to, it's going to get reduced, so it's that softer t sound, but it also comes between two vowel sounds, that t. So instead of a t, it's going to sound like a d. Go to the, go to the. And just to give you some more examples, I said that you will use this often. Go to the something. Go to the restaurant, go to the gym, go to the mall, go to the store, go to the, go to the, go to the. So this is a phrase that you could just keep practicing over and over and over, and it's going to sound distinctly American anytime you want to say go to the someplace. Go to the, go to the, go to the, go to the. And is another word that's often reduced. So we've talked about 3 of them right now so far, with and, to, and what was the other one? You. And that vowel sound changes. So instead of and, you're going to hear n. Get a, I can link that together with the flap T, bite to eat. I'm going to, you see those t sounds, and just that's what's going to allow us to connect them together. Bite to eat. Bite to eat. And I'm also going to say that weaker t. Let's go to the restaurant and get a bite to eat. Let's go to the restaurant and get a bite to eat. Say it slowly after me. Let's go to the restaurant and get a bite to eat. Now, at a faster speed, let's go to the restaurant and get a bite to eat. And now here comes the challenging part. See if you can keep up with me as we say this 3 times. Are you ready? Here we go. Let's go to the restaurant and get a bite to eat. Let's go to the restaurant and get a bite to eat. Let's go to the restaurant and get a bite to eat. Okay, and then the final response is, I'm going to do a few more laps. I should, not few more laps. I'm going to do a few laps and then I'm done. I'm going to do a few laps and then I'm done. I'm going to, we've already talked about going to getting reduced to gonna. Extremely common reduction. However, if we're saying I'm gonna, you can reduce this even further. Now, this may get you outside of your comfort zone a little bit. It is not something that you have to do as we say this sentence. I'm just going to go ahead and reduce it. It's going to sound like I'm gonna. And then do a. This is intrusion. And intrusion, it's the opposite of elision, essentially, because in this case, we are adding sounds. And we're going to add either a slight y or w sounds. In this case, do. You can hear the sound that we're adding. Do. That w, slight w sound. This is what allows us to link these vowel sounds together. I'm going to do a few laps, and is of course going to get reduced to n, at least when I do it right now. Then I'm done. I can link that phrase. Then I'm. So it's going to sound like this. I'm going to do a few laps and then I'm done. I'm going to do a few laps and then I'm done. Before we say the whole sentence, give it a try with that I'm gonna. Try it again. I'm gonna. And maybe, I don't know if it helps to look at the phonetic spelling. Once again, it's not something you have to do. However, I told you that a lot of this is great for your listening comprehension. This is something you will certainly hear if you're out on the streets and somebody else is talking to you, or you're listening to a podcast or watching a movie or TV show, and you're going to hear this. I'm gonna. Let me say it slowly and then just repeat after me. I'm going to do a few laps and then I'm done. Now at a normal speed, I'm going to do a few laps and then I'm done. Now let's say it 3 times together. I'm going to do a few laps and then I'm done. I'm going to do a few laps and then I'm done. I'm going to do a few laps and then I'm done. I think you're ready. I think you're ready for the entire dialogue. Before we begin, I'll say the entire thing and then we're gonna switch. Don't you want to get out of the pool? What's your hurry? I'm just taking it easy. Let's go to the restaurant and get a bite to eat. I'm gonna do a few laps and then I'm done. I told you, it helps to maybe try to get into character. Imagine you and I, we're out at the pool having a good time, and then I am gonna say A and you say B. Ready? Don't you want to get out of the pool? Let's go to the restaurant and get a bite to eat. Okay, that sounds good. I'll wait right here. All right, now let's switch. I want you to say A, I will say B. You can begin. What's your hurry? I'm just taking it easy. I'm going to do a few laps and then I'm done. Great job. As you can tell, there is a little repetition, and that's good. We're going to keep using some of these common reductions like gonna, and it's good to just keep going back and practicing and practicing and practicing some more. So let's keep practicing with dialogue number 3. And here it is. I will say the whole thing, and then we're going to dive deep into each sentence and talk about what's going on. Did you remember to go to the meeting? I was going to go, but it slipped my mind. You're going to get an earful for this. I'm going to have to come up with an excuse. Maybe you heard it at the very end with that I'm going to have to come up with an excuse. So let's start at the beginning, and we'll begin with that question. Did you remember to go to the meeting? In this case, it's a conversation perhaps between two colleagues, and somebody says, hey, did you remember to go to the meeting? Did you? That D and Y, they blend together. You get more of a J sound. Did you, did you, did you? Did you remember to go to the meeting? So once again, to, it's going to sound a little softer. T, t, t. But remember to. I am going to use a flat T. So instead of the T, it's going to sound like a D because it's following an sound. I gave you another example of a T following an R, and the T sounds like a flat T. Started, 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 started. Remember to, started, remember to. Remember to, there it is, the go to the, go to the meeting, go to the. We're just going to keep practicing that. We talked about, hey, go to the restaurant, go to the meeting, go to the gym, go to the mall, go to the store. So let's say this question one time slowly. You repeat after me. Ready? Did you remember to go to the gym? Or, okay, never mind. I got that go to the gym on 9. Let's start from the beginning, all right? Repeat after me. Did you remember to go to the meeting? Now, let's say it faster. Did you remember to go to the meeting? Shadow, 3 times. Say it with me, this question. Did you remember to go to the meeting? Did you remember to go to the meeting? Did you remember to go to the meeting? I feel like I don't know why. I was thinking like I feel like a parrot just keeps saying repeating as we're shadowing. But that's okay. This is all about getting practicing your speaking skills. I was going to go, but it slipped my mind. A little vocabulary for you. If something slips your mind, it just means that you forgot it. All right, somebody forgot to do something or they forgot something, and you could say, yeah, it slipped my mind. So what is happening? I was gonna go, of course, gonna, common reduction, but I can link that together, and that T, that final T in but, it's gonna sound like a flat T when I say it, but I, or not, sorry, but I, but it, but it, but it. Slip my mind. So slipped. You hear me emphasizing that T, which is the ED sound. The ED in slipped, because it's the P is voiceless, it really would sound like a T. Slipped. However, we talked about elision. When like a T comes between 2 consonants, it elides. You're not really going to hear it. And that's what I was trying to really, I guess, kind of create a little bit of a chart down there and saying basically slip my. You're not really going to hear that ED. And some people may say, well, how do you know that we're talking about the past tense? You really just need to put everything into context as you're listening to somebody else, because it's going to align when they say it. Slip my mind, slip my mind. It slipped my mind. Let's just practice that last clause right there. So just repeat after me. But it slipped my mind. But it slipped my mind. But it slipped my mind. Let's say the whole sentence now, one time slowly, and then we're just going to speed things up and do some shadowing. I was going to go, but it slipped my mind. Now faster. I was going to go, but it slipped my mind. Now let's say it 3 times. You ready? I was going to go, but it slipped my mind. I was going to go, but it slipped my mind. I was going to go, but it slipped my mind. All right, great. Hopefully, even if this is a new phrase for you, if something slips your mind, great phrase, instead of saying that you forgot. And hopefully you can even build your vocabulary a little bit with this lesson. And here's some more vocabulary for you if the other person responds and says, oh, you're going to get an earful for this. You're going to get an earful for this. This is more of an idiom if you say that in this case, somebody gets an earful. If somebody gets an earful, this is when someone speaks angrily to you and they tell you what they think. So just keep in mind to get an earful. If I am getting an earful, somebody is speaking angrily to me, and nobody likes to get an earful. If it's the other way, if you are speaking angrily to somebody else, then you could change get to give. You are giving someone an earful. So just keep that in mind. If I'm giving you an earful, I am speaking angrily to you. If I'm getting an earful, you are speaking angrily to me. Hopefully that makes sense. So of course, think about this context. Somebody didn't go to the meeting, slipped their mind, and they say, oh, you're going to get an earful for this. Somebody else is going to get angry with you, perhaps the boss, the supervisor. But let's talk about what's happening. You're gonna get an earful. We can link that phrase together. And of course, that final T in get, you're going to hear me pronounce it as a flat T. Now, for is another one of those beautiful words in English that is not often emphasized, not going to sound like the number 4, and that vowel sound is going to change slightly. And in this case, it's going to sound a little more like fur. It's a softer sound. For this, for this, for this. Hopefully it's easy to hear as I was just saying it then. Let's practice this. You're going to get an earful for this. I'll say it slowly, and then we're going to speed things up. You're going to get an earful for this. Let's speed it up. You're going to get an earful for this. Now, I want you to say it with me, shadow, 3 times. Ready? You're going to get an earful for this. You're going to get an earful for this. You're going to get an earful for this. Now, the response is, well, I'm going to have to come up with an excuse, which I think is a great idea. Nobody likes to get an earful for something that maybe, well, they made a mistake. So once again, you could say I'm gonna. There is nothing wrong with it. It is incredibly common. But if I were to reduce it further, I'm gonna try to get you outside of your comfort zone. I'm using it even then as I say that. I'm gonna try to get you outside of your comfort zone, and we're gonna use that full reduction. I'm gonna have to, another quite common reduction. Come up, I can link that together, as well as that final phrase with an excuse, with an excuse. We can link that together. I'm gonna have to come up with an excuse. I'll say it again slowly and you can repeat after me. Ready? I'm gonna have to come up with an excuse. Let's speed things up. I'm gonna have to come up with an excuse. Now I want you to shadow. Say it with me 3 times. Are you ready? I'm gonna have to come up with an excuse. I'm gonna have to come up with an excuse. I'm gonna have to come up with an excuse. Great job. I think you're doing an amazing job. So I think you're ready to practice, and let's say this dialogue together. I'll say the whole thing, and then we'll take turns. Did you remember to go to the meeting? I was going to go, but it slipped my mind. You're going to get an earful for this. I'm going to have to come up with an excuse. Simple enough, straightforward. I will start with A. You and I are colleagues, so I will begin, and then you will say B. Ready? Did you remember to go to the meeting? You're going to get an earful for this. Very nice. Let's switch. I want you to say A, and I will say B. So you can begin. I was going to go, but it slipped my mind. I'm going to have to come up with an excuse. From one colleague to another, well done. All right, well done. I love it. Let's practice a little bit more with dialogue number 4. And again, these are simple sentences. I think that you understand them, even if you were to hear them in a movie, TV show, podcast, whatever it may be. But again, this is more about developing your speaking fluency if you are interested in the American accent and really understanding why people like me from the US sound the way that we do. Let's look at this one. I will say the whole thing, and we're going to dive deeper into each sentence. What's up with the bus? Should we keep waiting around? It's your call, but I think we may want to consider other options. We're going to have to get an Uber if we want to make it on time. I'm going to see if I can find one on the app. Okay, let's look at what's happening with each sentence. As I was saying this, I think you recognize some of the things we've already talked about, and that is awesome. To give you a little vocabulary down here, if somebody says, well, in this case, what's up with the bus? Or what's up with this? Or what's up with that? It is a little more informal if you were to say, what's up with something? You could even use it when talking about a person. What's up with Wes? What's wrong? What's his problem? Because you're going to use this to say that you don't understand something, or you're just wanting an explanation. Like why is this happening? So in this context, of course, it's like the expectation is that the bus should be there, and it has not arrived. And somebody says, what's up with the bus? What's up with that? All right, I don't know. Should we keep waiting around? What's up? I can link that together. You can hear me moving that consonant sound over. What's up? What's up? With the. Of course, this is pretty simple as far as these overlapping THs with the bus. And we're going to end with that with the, and just move right into that voiced TH and the. What's up with the bus? What's up with the bus? Should we keep waiting around? Now, this is a little trickier. Let me dive deeper, even dive deeper right here. Waiting is a verb. I've already said that often people in the US will drop that G. So instead of waiting, if I drop the G, it then becomes waitin'. Now, you may have heard something strange going on there. Let me say both of those. Waiting, waitin'. Waiting, waitin'. So waiting, when I say the ing, that T is a flat T. It's going to sound like a soft D. Waiting, waiting, waiting. If I drop the G, it's going to change to a glottal stop. It's like I'm swallowing the T. The sound is coming from the throat. Waitin', waitin'. To give you some more examples with this, and this occurs when you have the T followed by an N sound. And there are other words. Think of these words: kitten, mitten, mountain, certain. And you have a T followed by an N sound. And with each of those words, kitten, mitten, mountain, certain, you hear me pronouncing that glottal stop. To hone in on that glottal T, glottal stop, if somebody makes a mistake, they say, uh-oh. Just say that right now. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Hopefully you can feel that sound in your throat, because in between the uh-oh, that is a glottal stop. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. And then you can try to say those words like kitten, mitten, mountain. And in this case, with a verb that ends with a T, If we drop the G, waitin'. There are other verbs too. If I were to drop the G in sitting, sittin'. Or drop the G in meeting, meetin'. And you hear those glottal stops. What makes it even a little trickier is then I'm going to say waitin' around, and then I can link that phrase together, waitin' around, waitin' around. Hopefully that makes sense, and this is when I feel like, wow, the language is fascinating. It changes from a flap T to a glottal T, a glottal stop, when you're talking about waiting versus waitin'. I know it's a long explanation, but I really wanted to let you know what was going on with this, G dropping, glottal T plus linking. So let's practice this sentence, and let's just try that phrase, waitin' around. Say it, repeat after me, waitin' around, waitin' around. If you feel like you're having trouble making that glottal stop, of course you, with the American accent, just use a flap T and say the ing, waiting, waiting around, waiting around. It is also very common. This is not a fixed rule, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about how people may say the same thing, but it's going to sound different. So if you are more comfortable pronouncing a flap T, like waiting, just stick with that. But as I go through this, I'm going to use that glottal stop, waiting around. What's up with the bus? Should we keep waiting around? I'll say it slowly, repeat after me. What's up with the bus? Should we keep waiting around? Let's speed it up. What's up with the bus? Should we keep waiting around? 3 times. Say it with me. Ready? What's up with the bus? Should we keep waiting around? What's up with the bus? Should we keep waiting around? What's up with the bus? Should we keep waiting around? Well done, well done. You know, it's like you and I, we're here. We're at the bus stop, and it has not showed up. And this was the question, and then the other person says, it's your call, but I think we may want to consider other options. It's your call. If somebody, it is, again, a little more informal, but I think in general, the US, people in the United States, they speak rather informally, even at places like work. But if somebody says, it's your call, they're going to use this to say that, someone should be the one to make the decision. All right, it's not, I'm not going to make the decision. It's up to you. It's your call. So this person was asking, should we keep waiting around? And they say, well, look, it's your call. You decide. All right, it's your call, but I think we might want to consider other options. It's your call. It's your. It's your. You hear that those sounds blending. It's your call. It's your call. But I can link that together along with that flap T, but I think we may want to consider other options. Want to, I'm going to reduce that to wanna, and then consider other options. I can link that phrase together. Repeat after me. Consider other options. Consider other options. One more time. Consider other options. Great. Let's say this sentence slowly and then at a faster speed. Repeat after me. It's your call, but I think we may want to consider other options. Now faster. It's your call, but I think we may want to consider other options. Now together. 3 times. You ready? It's your call, but I think we may want to consider other options. It's your call, but I think we may want to consider other options. It's your call, but I think we may... Sorry. I'm like losing my own speaking ability as we go through this. Sorry, let's do the shadowing part again. 3 times. Ready? I think I'm fumbling between, I think we may want to consider other options. Okay, 3 times. Ready? Say it with me. It's your call, but I think we may want to consider other options. It's your call, but I think we may want to consider other options. It's your call, but I think we may want to consider other options. All right, a lot of speaking going on in this lesson. And it's okay. We all kind of trip up from time to time. It happens to the best of us. It happens to me quite often. And that's all right. And then the next sentence, we're going to have to get an Uber if we want to make it on time. So in this situation, apparently you and I, we have to go somewhere. All right. And we're going to have to get an Uber if we want to make it on time. Going to, we reduce that to gonna, have to have to, gonna have to. It can be a little tricky to say one reduction right after the other, gonna have to. Get an Uber. Link that entire phrase, that final T. In the get, I'm going to pronounce it as a flap T. If we wanna, another common reduction, make it on time. You see a lot of these flap T's. I told you it is a very distinct part of the American accent. People use this quite often, pretty much almost in every sentence. So let's practice this sentence right here, slowly, at a normal speed, and then saying it 3 times together. So repeat after me. We're gonna have to get an Uber if we wanna make it on time. And then more at a normal speed, we're gonna have to get an Uber if we wanna make it on time. 3 times. Ready? Together? Try to keep up with the same pace. We're going to have to get an Uber if we want to make it on time. We're going to have to get an Uber if we want to make it on time. We're going to have to get an Uber if we want to make it on time. And I don't know, you can tell me. I personally think one of the more difficult parts of shadowing is trying to maintain that same speed. And the difficulty in that is just transitioning from one sound to the next as you are saying these words, not individually, but together as a phrase. Then finally, the other person says, I'm going to have to see if I can find one on the app. I'm going to have to see if I can find one on the app. Of course, that I'm gonna get you outside your comfort zone. You're going to hear me say that I'm gonna. If you want to say I'm gonna, again, very common, perfectly fine. I'm going to see if I can link that together, can find one on the app. Find one. Elision is going to occur. I mentioned maybe the T or the D. It's going to elide. In this case, one, it does begin with a consonant sound, even though it begins with a vowel. One, it begins with a consonant sound, that w. Find one. Find one. You don't hear that d in find. Find one on the app. The other thing, of course, one on, we can link that together, the app. I'm saying the stronger the. Most of the time, people are going to say the, and you're going to use that schwa sound. In this case, when the next word begins with a vowel sound, that is a time when you would use the stronger the. So the app, the app. Let's put it all together. I'm going to have to see if I can find one on the app. I'll say it slowly, and then we're going to speed things up. I'm going to have to see if I can find one on the app. Say it faster. Repeat after me. I'm going to have to see if I can find one on the app. Now, 3 times. Let's say it together. I'm going to have to see if I can find one on the app. I'm going to have to see if I can find one on the app. I'm going to have to see if I can find one on the app. Excellent. Excellent. Love it. Let's do it. We're ready. All right. We're at the bus stop. Let's get into character. I'll say the whole thing and then we'll take turns. What's up with the bus? Should we keep waiting around? It's your call, but I think we may want to consider other options. We're going to have to get an Uber if we want to make it on time. I'm going to see if I can find one on the app. I'll start out A. I want you to say B. Ready? What's up with the bus? Should we keep waiting around? We're going to have to get an Uber if we want to make it on time. Great. Let me know if you find something and we'll find another way to get there. All right, let's switch. You say A, we're at the bus stop, and I will say B. You can begin. It's your call, but I think we may want to consider other options. I'm going to see if I can find one on the app. I love it. You and I, we're at the bus stop. I really felt like we were at the bus stop having this conversation. I hope you did too, and you could really get into it. I think it makes it a little easier to just say these sentences using these different parts of connected speech. So we just practice 4 different dialogues, different sentences, even though we reviewed several phrases over and over, and I think that's a good thing. Of course, you notice reductions like gonna were pretty common. We use that all the time, as well as me talking to you about a phrase like get out of, and using those flap T's and linking that together, as well as go to the. That's one of my favorites. Go to the gym, go to the mall, go to the restaurant, go to the store. So there are a lot of different parts when it comes to American fast speech and why people sound the way they do. I really do think, even if this is not one of your goals, this will help with your listening comprehension, because this is the way that you are going to hear people speak, including myself included. But I enjoyed practicing with you. If you actually spoke to me, and I wasn't just talking to myself, let me know in the comments, write speaking, so that I know that you are practicing your speaking skills, which is what this lesson is all about. And if you enjoyed this lesson, you can let me know by hitting that like button. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. So long.